Imagine sitting down to study, you open your laptop, 5 minutes later, you check your phone, and a notification pops up, or you reply to one message, then another, watch one YouTube short, then another, and before you even realize it, an hour has already disappeared, and you feel guilty. You wonder, what's wrong with me? Why can't I focus like I used to? And maybe you have noticed something else. Now the reading feels harder than it did years ago. The movies feel too slow. The conversations are interrupted by the urge to check your phone. And even during your meals or while walking, your hand reaches to your pocket almost automatically. Many people blame themselves. They think they have become lazy. They have become undisciplined, weak. But what if I told you that this isn't simply a personal failure? Something much bigger is happening. Something is affecting the billions of people across the world, and most of us don't even realize it. The people often say that the time is money, but I think that that's no longer true. Today, the attention is the real currency. Every company is competing for it. The Google, the YouTube, the Instagram, the TikTok, the Netflix, the news website, the gaming companies, and the streaming services, advertisers, and even your email inbox. There are these all their business depend on just one thing: keeping your attention for just a little longer. Because the longer they keep you looking, the more advertisement you see, the more money they make. And in other words, you are no longer simply the customer. Your attention has become the product. Think about your average day. Within a minutes of waking up, many people check their phone. People check their notification, their messages, their emails, their Instagram, their Facebook notification or Facebook messages, the TikTok, and the news, YouTube, especially the YouTube Shorts, and throughout the day, hundreds of tiny interruptions compete for your mind, and each interruption lasts only a few seconds, but these all together they slowly reshape how your brain pays attention. And without even realizing it, we train our brains to crave novelty, the constant stimulation, the constant excitement, and the deep concentration starts feeling uncomfortable, almost painful. This isn't just about productivity. The poor attention affects almost every part of our life. It becomes harder to study, it becomes harder to work, harder to build a relationship, harder to read, harder to think deeply, harder to make a good decision, and even our happiness is affected because many of the life's greatest experiences like learning, creating something, the mastering a skill, having the meaningful conversation, and reading a great book, falling into a state of flow. These all require a sustained attention. And lose your attention, and gradually you lose your ability to experience the many of the richest part of your life. For years, the people have been told that you just need more discipline. Stop being lazy, try harder. But modern neuroscience paints a much more complicated picture. Your brains have evolved over millions of years, even in an environment completely different from today's digital world. Our ancestors never had thousands of notifications. They never had infinite scrolling, algorithm-driven videos, or the devices designed by the teams of behavioral psychologists and engineers whose job is to keep us engaged. But today, our brain is facing challenges. It was never designed to handle that. Doesn't mean you are powerless, but it does mean that understanding the problem is the first step towards solving it. In this video series, we are going to answer some of the fascinating questions. What exactly is attention? Why does our brain get distracted so easily? Is social media really changing the brain? What role does the dopamine actually play? Why does reading books feels harder now? And is multitasking making you feel less intelligent? Why do sleep, stress, anxiety, and depression destroy concentration? Can you actually train your attention like a muscle? And most importantly, can you get your focus back? The answer is yes, but it requires understanding how attention really works, and that's exactly where we will begin. So before talking why our attention is getting worse, we first need to understand what the attention actually is. And most people think attention simply means concentrating, but neuroscience defines it differently. Attention is the brain's ability to select what deserve our limited mental resources while ignoring everything else. Think of your brain like a stage in a theater. Thousands of actors are waiting in the backstage. The sound, the memories, the thoughts, the emotion, the notification, and the people's talking, your heartbeat, your breathing, and you cannot bring all of them into the single stage at once. Your attention is the spotlight. Whatever the spotlight shines on become your experience. Everything else fade into their background. In other words, attention determines your reality, because what you pay attention to becomes what you experience. Right now, your eyes receive millions of bits of visual information every second. Your ears constantly detect sound. Your skin senses pressure and temperature. Your nose smells the environment. Your body monitors your heartbeat, breathing, hunger, and balance. If your brain consciously proceeds everything at once, it will be overwhelmed. So instead, your brain filters. It constantly asks one question: what is the most important thing right now? This filtering process is called attention. Attention is not one thing. This is where many people become surprised. And there isn't just one type of attention. The psychologists generally describe it into various several forms. Let's look at the most important ones. So first one is selective attention. This is your ability to focus on one thing while ignoring distraction. Imagine that you are studying in a noisy hospital cafeteria. The peoples are talking, the phones are ringing, the plates are catering, yet somehow you continue reading. Your brain suppresses the irrelevant information, and this is known as selective attention. And without it, every sound would interrupt you. And next, second one, we have the sustained attention. This is the ability to stay focused over time, reading an entire chapter, watching an educational lecture, the performing surgery, driving for several hours, writing a research paper. These all require sustained attention. But unfortunately, this is the form of attention many people feel they are losing today. And after just a few minutes, their brain wants something new. The executive attention, and this is the one of the most powerful abilities of the human brain. The executive attention helps you to resist temptation. Imagine that you are studying, suddenly your phone's light off, your brain wants to check it, but your executive attention says no, keep studying. And this system is closely connected to the closely connected to self control. It is one reason the attention and the discipline are deeply related. And fourth, we have is divided attention. The people often call this as multitasking, while talking while driving, cooking while listening to a podcast, walking while texting. And people believe they are many people believe that they are good multitasker, but neuroscience tells a different story. We will come back to this later, because one of the biggest myths about productivity is that multitasking makes us more efficient. The myth of multitasking. Here is something fascinating. Your brain doesn't truly multitask during the complex mental work. Instead, it rapidly switches between the tasks. Study phone, study, message, again study, and then again notification, and every switching has a cost. The uh, researcher call this the switching cost, and even a brief interruption can leave part of your attention stuck on the previous task, and this is called as attention residue, a concept popularized by organizational psychologist Dr. Sophie Leroy. And imagine reading an important chapter, then replying to a message. Even after returning to your book, part of your mind is still thinking about that conversation. Your attention isn't just fully back. Over time, your constant switching reduces the quality of thinking, not because you are unintelligent, but because your brain wasn't designed for endless interruptions. So question is, why did attention evolve? Our brains evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. For most of the human history, the survival depended on noticing the sudden changes, a rustling bush, an unfamiliar sound, a movement in the distance. Ignoring this signal could mean death. Our ancestors who noticed novelty quickly were the most likely to survive, and that ancient survival system still exists inside us today. Except now, instead of reacting to predator, it reacts to notification, the breaking news, the viral videos, the new emails, the trending topics, and the and our The same brain that once protected us from danger is now constantly pulled towards the digital novelty. And this isn't because your brain is broken, but it's because your brain is ancient, living in a world that is completely new. And the brain attention. Scientists have identified several brain networks involved in attention. You don't need to memorize their name, but understanding what they do is fascinating. One network helps you stay focused on a task, another detects new or unexpected events, and another helps you plan and make decision. And normally this system work together beautifully, but when novelty constantly interrupt us, the alert system become more overactive, while sustained focus become harder. It's like trying to read a book while someone taps you on a shoulder every 30 seconds, and and eventually your brain begins expecting interruption, and that expectation itself make concentration more difficult. Here is perhaps the most important idea in this entire video. Your life is ultimately shaped by what repeatedly captures your attention. If your attention is uh, constantly pulled towards outrage, your world begins to feel angry. If it is constantly pulled towards comparison, your life starts feeling inadequate. And if it is constantly pulled towards learning, you become more knowledgeable. If it is pulled towards meaningful work, you gradually build expertise. And the philosopher and psychologist William James wrote more than a century ago that my experience is what I agree to attend to. And in many ways, he was describing something neuroscience continues to support today. The attention doesn't just determine what you notice, it influences what you remember, what you learn, and what habits you build, and ultimately who you become. Now that we have understand what attention is, the next question is impossible to ignore. If our brain evolved to focus so well, why does concentrating feels harder than ever? The answer isn't simply a lack of discipline. Behind every notification, every endless feed, and every recommended videos lies a multi-billion dollar industry competing for your one thing, that is your attention. And in next video, we will uncover the hidden economics, the psychology and technology behind what experts call the attention economy. Once you see how it works, you will never look at your phone the same way again.